Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
There is a way to stop the revenge tour.
President Biden would point to this ample evidence that Trump is already expressing a desire, an intent to abuse power, to illicitly prosecute people who have not broken any law, naming political targets, demanding jail without even the pretense of naming a crime or respecting any investigation. So that would be an argument that he's already targeting democracy, free speech, and vowing what could be a legal selective prosecution. And two, President Biden could say this new threat, admitted by the president-elect, is unprecedented. And three, that the Supreme Court granted the incoming president new immunity for official acts, past and future. So President Biden could, under this plan, and I'm telling you, it is a pretty wide, sweeping, bold plan, but the idea would be President Biden could answer the Supreme Court with lawful action of his own, creating new legal terrain in response to new legal terrain. And here's how it would work. I told you, plain English. Under this plan, President Biden could grant his own immunity to people who serve the country in any branch of government, in any party, who now face this documented threat and prosecution. The argument is, facing unprecedented moves by the court and the president-elect vowing these big moves, that would require an unprecedented protection of public servants. Indeed, the Biden White House could literally quote from the Supreme Court immunity ruling about how officials need some immunity from future prosecution to do their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. However, not to, rain on your parade. Don't tell me not to, sit and putter. Life's candy, the sun's a ball of butter. Don't bring around a cloud to rain on my parade. Okay, I won't. However, there's criminal, and as Kash Patel reminded us on Steve Bannon's War Room show, there's civil. And you can't pardon somebody from a civil suit, no matter what federal office you hold, including the presidency of the United States. So, the idea that people need protective pardons, I don't know how you feel about it. There are two sides to it. I've already heard the right and their media chorus of sycophants say, hey, I heard Steve Bannon screaming his ugly ass off about how they're going to do this. They're going to pardon people. That's because they're so guilty. See, and there is that argument where you would have to prove a negative that you didn't commit a crime, but you received, and I'm not going to call it a preemptive pardon. I don't think it's preemptive. That means that there was a crime that you preempted. Something was happening and you stopped it, right? Doesn't that imply that to you when you say preemptive? I say protective, a protective pardon. Why? Because you're protecting people from malicious prosecution, which is what Donald Trump has indicated, what Kash Patel, Steve Bannon, the worst people in the world that he's threatening to put into, fabulous positions over the entire judicial system, over the entire justice system, the entire investigatory scheme in the FBI. They're called the Federal Bureau of Investigation, right? He's talking about putting the worst people in positions of great power. The Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's already sullied herself, okay? Already done it in front of everybody. So you know the character, you know the quality, and you know her willingness. She said, we're going to prosecute the prosecutors. She actually said that. I can go grab that too. I got it in my archives. But you're going to have to, for the moment, trust me, that she said she was going to prosecute the prosecutors. I mean, this is intent to conduct malicious prosecutions of innocent Americans, innocent people, right? So if you know that that's the case, then aren't you issuing a protective shield? You're issuing a protective pardon, not a preemptive one. And it should be called that because words have meaning. That's number one. Number two, you're going to have to, and we're all going to have to, and I've had to, wrestle with the idea that there is no protection from a civil suit. There just isn't. There is nothing to preempt that. There's nothing to stop that from occurring. And the problem with it isn't whether or not you're liable, isn't whether or not you did the libelous or slanderous thing. It has nothing to do with whether or not you did it, and you did it with malicious, forethought, where you did it with malicious intent, where you knew what the truth was, but you set it aside and lied anyway. That is what defamation is. Okay, it has nothing to do with saying what's on your mind. We have free speech in this country, and if my words hurt you, well, my words hurt you. It's not actionable unless I called you something or accused you of doing something that A, harmed you in your reputation, that harmed you in your ability to function, and that I did it with malicious intent, meaning I knew it wasn't true, but I did it anyway with the intent to harm you, with the intent for you to lose money. That's what defamation and libel is. Slander too. Okay? And there's no protection from that. Now, here's the problem. It costs a fortune to defend yourself from any wrongful accusation, from anybody saying anything. Anyone in this country can sue anybody for anything, pretty much. Okay? And there's the obligation on the defendant's part, the person who's being sued, to show up about it. You have to show up. You have to say, I didn't do it. You have to say it through a lawyer. You have to make your claim to the court, and then the court will decide to go ahead and take evidence. That's called, it's part of it. It's discovery. And depositions are part of it. You know what's so disgusting? That Donald Trump was due to be deposed this week. And instead of, in the ABC media suit, right? George Stephanopoulos, he sued George Stephanopoulos. Well, because he was suing, he goes first. So he was going to be deposed this week. And ahead of receiving any evidence, ahead of taking any evidence, ahead of his deposition and his grievances being heard, and, what proof does he have that they did it with malicious intent, that George Stephanopoulos didn't follow what the judge said, but that George Stephanopoulos said something other than what the judge said, that you could say about E. Jean Carroll being digitally raped, which is what the judge said. He said that the classic definition of rape in New York State is penis to, like I said, you'll excuse me, but this is where we are in this freaking country, that you have a man who's going to be president of the United States again, who was accused not of using his penis to penetrate in a strict rape definition in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman, but that he digitally raped her with his fingers. Ew. I know. It's where we are. That's right. It's where we are. It's just like, I'm out. Yeah, I get it. But instead of taking the evidence, ABC gave him the money. They just gave him money. They gave it to him. And George Stephanopoulos has to give it to him. And from what I understand, he is so freaking furious. He is so angry. I mean, I don't see how he'll continue. I honestly don't. I'm sure he's wrestling with it right this second about whether to stay or whether to go, and how do you work for a company that betrays your good name like that? Because people aren't going to hear everything I just said. People are going to hear that ABC paid Donald Trump for damages that they did to him by lying about what the judge said you could say legitimately he did to E. Jean Carroll. Okay? That's where we are. Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.